John Wick Chapter 4 is directed by Chad Stahelski. I'm sorry if I can't get it right. And stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and Bill Skarsgård, and among others. And this is the fourth film in the John Wick franchise. And in this story, it deals with John Wick essentially having to regain pretty much everything on the run and get us basically try to fight the higher power that's called the Marquis, where basically after some stuff happens to Winston and crew after the events of the last film, it pretty much becomes a globetrotting adventure for John to essentially get to, at this point, the highest person at the high table that controls everything. Well, in a certain way. I'll leave it there because there's some other things I can't go into detail without spoiling. But pretty much, if you've seen from the trailers, John has to find his way to essentially get to stop Bill Skarsgård. And along the way, he has to also evade Donnie Yen's character, who's this blind hitman. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Chad, who basically directed the other John Wick films. And I've always been an avid fan of these movies. Ever since the first movie came out, it was a big surprise. And it made me feel like that we are getting to see action films grow a lot more better again this time. And it was the biggest comeback for Keanu Reeves of basically doing action movies. And I give a lot of props to this day for Keanu Reeves still maintaining his physicality, for putting into a lot of emphasis on not only a lot of his stunts and stuff that he sees a lot in the movies, but also a lot of the real authentic stuff like you're seeing with weapons, especially with guns and stuff like that. And a lot of the commitment that he puts into all these films is always a blast, and he just makes the character so great that I can't get enough of these movies. And, ever since I've seen the last two movies, it seems like they kept getting better and better. And while I had some issues with the last film in certain areas, I feel like they keep going connectedly strong with how they continue with the continuity of all the films. And of more of exploring a lot more of not only of seeing what John can go through, but also building a whole lot of world building since we got from the first film. And so with this one, it got me really excited because this was one of my most anticipated films of the year. And this was actually supposed to come out a couple years ago, but due to COVID and everything, and due to some other stuff, and due to Keanu Reeves essentially shooting this back-to-back with Matrix Resurrections, I could see why this did get delayed for a while. But after upon seeing it, man, I can tell you, I don't know if this is as great. I don't know if this is considered as great as maybe the first one, but I still think this is definitely so far the best sequel of the franchise. To me, I think this is better than the second one in a lot of ways, and it gives you everything that you want out of the entire series with, a lot of great choreographed action scenes that you get. And even though the movie runs almost 3 hours long, it never feels that way. It really commits to what you want out of seeing John going on his journey and, trying to go through pretty much everything. He's basically fighting the whole fucking world at this point, especially like he did in the third movie. And then on top of that, once again, the performances are also great too. Keanu Reeves, he commits to the role. He's great as usual as John. He puts in a lot of stuff that we've come to enjoy so far in a lot of these films. And, I can never get bored with seeing him on screen in these kind of action roles. And so he's great as usual. And then also some of the other ones too as well come back, like Ian McShane as Winston, great as usual. You also have Lawrence Fishburne coming back, which is, great to see a Matrix reunion that I always wanted to see ever since I saw the second film. And then on top of the other new additions too, I got to really give a big shout out to Donnie Yen as the blind hitman. His character in this is kind of like a cross between his character from Rogue One, where he was also blind in that film and also carrying a melee weapon of sort. But also he kind of reminded me a little bit of I forgot the character's name, but there was this blind kind of guy that's in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and that kind of level. He's kind of like a way that he can kind of pick up on things even though he's blind. He basically is he's basically that character that's from that video game. And if you know what I'm talking about, it's that guy that basically runs the Las Vegas casinos and stuff in or the Las Venturas casinos and stuff in San Andreas. But he was great, and then I also got a really great to see Bill Skarsgård in a villain role again, especially he not only owns it in every scene that he's in, but he commands such a great presence that he's what you come to love from a great actor like this caliber that's able to make you feel like that character that you love to hate, and also some of the other ones that they add in too, I can't remember the actor's name, but I've seen him a lot in the other films. His first name starts with H. but he's known for doing like a lot of films that involve with a katana sword. That guy. He was great as usual, and he has one of the best fight scenes that's in. He has one of the best sequences in the beginning in this section that takes place in where is it? It's in I think it's in Japan. I think, but wherever it's at. But it's just great to see him as usual, and just getting to some of the action parts. I got to really commend a lot of not only the brutal stuff that they showcase, what you expect from John Wick, but a lot of the camera techniques that they do this time is not only fantastic with how they kind of put their own style into it, especially how you have sequences at the beginning that deal with John having to, like I said, in this whole sequence that involves katana swords and stuff, and then you also have a whole other sequence where he's essentially having to have this whole part where he's in basically it's in like a sports car, and he's having to roll around in this one part, and everybody's after him and stuff, and then it kind of plays out a little bit like The Warriors, and I think that was an intentional homage that the director was going for, because you even get to see, like you see in the trailers, an announcer that comes on where you only see their mouth, and she's announcing all the people that are going after John Wick and stuff. So I thought that was great, and then one of the other biggest standouts the most is this whole sequence that involves that where John is going through a section in this like kind of apartment or whatever, or like a hotel, and he basically, it's all in top-down view, and it's the closest that we'll probably ever get to see to like a live-action Grand Theft Auto, the original. If you've seen Grand Theft Auto, the original game, how it's all top-down view and shit, it's like the closest we'll get to that, where he's going from room to room, and you just see the top of it, you see it from top-down view. So I thought that was great, and then one of the other biggest things too is they don't hold back on a lot of the stakes they do this time, especially with the story. Like there's a lot of stuff they built into, especially in the beginning, that I couldn't believe that they got that where it was going. It became so unpredictable where it was going throughout the movie. And not going into spoilers, but yeah, it gets into some pretty big territory where things are pretty hectic the way it goes along. I'll leave it at there. And so that was great, and then it's also great hearing that kind of music that you come to love from a lot of the John Wick films, and the cinematography, especially in this club scene that's kind of all like in this water area, which I forgot to mention that was Scott Adkins. Scott Adkins has this kind of role where he's like a mixture of the Kingpin and basically he reminds me of Kingpin crossed with like a little bit of the Joker in certain areas, to that mentality, if that makes sense. Like in that, doing with card tricks and stuff. But I thought he was awesome. And I didn't really recognize him because he's wearing, a heavy suit and everything. And he has pretty... I think this is probably my favorite performance of him because he really nails it. And then going into that same scene, though, when we get into this kind of watery kind of area that's in this club, man, it's just the visuals, they don't hold back on making all these John Wick films so, like, beautiful to look at. And it's what you come to love from these kind of action series. And so there's not really much cons I can say about it because they're only kind of minor thing I could see people have, but I come to kind of acknowledge this point, is the fact that, yes, there is some things that the characters somewhat do that makes it feel like they're realistically couldn't happen in certain instances, but knowing how much I was able to suspend my disbelief throughout the entire film, I was able to still buy what was going on. And so that's always been just kind of a minor thing that I've had with some of the other films, but it's 4 movies in now where I've come to accept it at this point. But yes, I feel like if they were to go in a more realistic manner, certain things that characters do, or if they're getting hit or anything, or if they're falling down or anything like that, it's just one of those where if you put logic into it, it's one of those where you kind of think, you overthink it a little, in that you kind of can see where the issue is, and I completely understand that flaw. So other than that, though, I thought this was definitely so far my favorite film of the year, and with that, I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4 a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. So those of you who've also seen John Wick Chapter 4 and the other John Wick films, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.